how did you get into this line of work of activism?
Because you went to LSE as well, but you're
Yeah.
very like you're very anti-neoliberal economics, and you're very aligned with the heterodox school of thought.
Yeah,
I'd
well, it's
say.
interesting you say that. I didn't do economics at London School of Economics, so that might have helped.
It definitely helped.
I started off doing politics, and I was quite repelled by the fact that having tried to turn economics into a science, I don't think it is a science, they were then trying to turn politics into a science. It was the early 90s. It was the age of technocratic governments, right? Across all these global south governments who were emerging from dictatorships, the LSE was trying to teach them to be technocrats. There was a way of doing politics that was a science. I think we can now see that's absolute nonsense. So I started doing history instead, which I found much more informative and much more interesting. But I spent an awful lot of time doing activism on campus. I mean,
As a student.
As a student, yeah. And I'd encourage students to do it today. And I should say, there's loads of things you can get involved in, but it would be remiss of me not to say we've got we also have student groups, and we've got a London group, including folks from here at SOAS who are part of that. So get in touch if you're interested. But I would say more than 50% of what I learned came from my activism, as opposed to my lectures.
Wow.
No disservice to my lecturers, but for me that's part and parcel of being a student. That's how you. And look, I was from a rural part of England. I went to a school which was virtually all white, right? Which is very homogenous in terms of how. And then you end up in LSE. I mean, that's earth-shattering. And actually that experience for me was so important in terms of undermining all the assumptions I had, all the stuff I'd been told about the nation, about the police, about the way society worked, supposedly in your interests, were shattered within a few months of me being at university. Yeah. So, not everyone has that opportunity, and I understand that. And so, we've got to be mindful of that too. But how can we help to also, people who come from, parts of the country where they never see anyone who doesn't look like they do, they're going to have 9 times out of 10, they're going to have a pretty slanted view of how the world works. So how do we speak? How do we speak to people in different circumstances in our own society? Because that was what did it for me completely. I was not radical before I came to university.
Do you consider yourself radical now?
Yeah, I consider myself radical. I think what I've been saying in this interview is, I know people dress it up as, well, what I'm saying is more common sense, actually, than the society. And it's a valid thing to do. But I think given the political spectrum that exists in this country, when we go to elections and so on, I would be on the radical end of the spectrum.